Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, 320 Sim Pilot. Today we're taking a look at another new feature from the FlyByWire team in the A32NX. I say new feature, it's been out for a little while now, but I'm going to give you some real world context on what we do with it. I am of course a real world airline pilot, and hopefully this will give you a bit of that extra context onto how we use the aircraft in day-to-day operations. The feature we're talking about today is the OVFY. So it's a small button on the MCDU, but we're going to talk about what it is, why we use it, how we use it, and it is something that I use every day when I go flying the Airbus, and I'll explain why later on in the video. I'll be using the latest experimental version. This video was filmed in late January 2022. Right, let's jump into the flight deck. Not much to discuss. This could be a record short video for us today. We shall see how that works out. So here we are, and this is the button we're looking at. OVFY, OVFY is what that stands for, with a bit of a triangle. So if I jump into an appropriate view for the MCDU, we can see our flight plan here loaded up. A departure from Gatwick, runway 26 left, straight ahead, and all these points. So what is important is that this button allows us to overfly a waypoint. Now, obviously, it's going to fly past all these waypoints, so why do I need to tell it to do that? Well, what this is doing is it is specifying that you want to actually pass directly overhead of this waypoint before turning. So let me try and explain it to you. On the navigation display, you can see our departure, and it is a route out like this. So depart and then make a left turn to the south. Now, that's all very well, but the Airbus won't actually aim to fly directly over these waypoints unless they're already in a straight line. So it'll go straight over D258 Bravo because it's a straight line ahead. But then as we get to mid 3, it's going to probably cut that corner. Now you can see here that actually the way it's drawn on, these are already going to fly right overhead. But that's not always the case. It does depend on the coding of the departure. In the real aircraft, you'd expect to see some turns unless they are already coded as overflight waypoints. So as we scroll through, you can see it does that at most of these points. But maybe there at Bognor, you can see it goes overhead and a bit of a cut of that corner. The reason is in the real aircraft, it doesn't want to fly a direct sort of geometric shape. It wants to fly a smooth, efficient way. Like there you go. That's a bit of a better example. You can see that it's not quite going overhead of Rockhill, it's cutting the corner slightly. So when you see aircraft contrails overhead, they don't turn very much in the cruise because it's not very efficient, but when they do turn, they'll turn something like that. So inbound, before you get there, you make a turn and then you head outbound, and that's great, more efficient. But there are reasons we may not want to do this. So in the cruise, typically it would be if you're avoiding airspace. Let's say there's a FIR, information region, that we don't want to go into. Let's say it's another country that we're not supposed to be flying through, or we haven't filed a flight plan through, and their waypoint or their airspace runs up to just next to this waypoint. In that case, it's no good us cutting the corner because we could cut into airspace of a controller we're not speaking to, that sort of thing. So we could put at Rockhill an overfly point. If I tell it to overfly Rockhill, the airplane will fly straight overhead and then it will turn onto its next course and it will change the route slightly. So to do that, you can see Rockhill down here. It's actually on the arrival, but no matter. So to do that, all we have to do is, quite simply, we press overfly and it appears in the scratch pad as a triangle. I have no idea why, but that's what it appears as. And then I'm going to place that by pressing this key next to Rockhill. And now a triangle appears there. Now I believe in my experience, I think it should create a temporary flight plan. But anyway, I digress. I'm not 100% on that. It's been a while. So there we go. Now at Rockhill, you can see instead of cutting the corner, it flies over it directly and then makes its turn en route. So there we go. So you don't need to do this yourself unless you have a reason to believe it. So some routes, for example, you may know that this could happen. You could get too close to some airspace, so you'll have a briefing or something like that to do it. It's not something you need to do for every waypoint. It's not normal. It is a slightly unusual thing to do. It's not used very often for this purpose. It does have another purpose, which I'll explain shortly. But let's say we change our mind. We're actually quite happy to fly the more efficient route. So we're going to delete that. So we press overfly again and select the waypoint, and it's gone. And now this will hopefully pop back into the original. There we go. Much more efficient, much nicer. So that's one use in the cruise. The other one would be on a sort of departure for noise abatement reasons. So it could be that, say this departure, the airport probably phones up your airline and they might say, well, why are you cutting the corner? I'm not saying that's a problem on this exact departure, but it could happen. any airport. So you're going to find that the airplane is cutting the corner, and the airport has put these waypoints very specifically for noise abatement reasons. In that case, you might go, oh, okay, sorry, and then you would change the coding in the box to include it. So mid 3, let's say we want to overfly that instead. So typically, the charts will show you if it needs to be an overfly waypoint. And if they do, then it should be coded in the box. So often on departures, standard instrument departures, you'll actually see that little triangle there automatically as a pre-coded thing. So the aircraft knows it needs to overfly already. And the only thing you might consider doing is actually deleting it. If for any reason you thought that was appropriate, but very rare. You should just leave it as it is. So those are the two main uses, and that's how you enter it and get rid of it. Now, I'll give you a clue as to what I use it for mostly, and that's simply, it's a reminder. A lot of pilots do this. I'm not the only one. I picked it up from other people. But let's say we are on approach to the runway and we're clear to land. I will quite often just put the little triangle into the scratch pad as a reminder that we are clear to land. It's not really a reminder. If you're truly unsure, you're just going to ask air traffic anyway, but it can serve just as a bit of a trigger or just something to help you out in case. And same for takeoff as well. If you've been cleared to take off slightly further back in the process than normal, let's say you aren't quite on the runway yet, but you're cleared for takeoff, then maybe I'll add the triangle down there. That's my day-to-day use of it. But indeed, you might see it. You might recognize it in your flight plans now. If you're scrolling through the waypoints, checking your departure, you might see that little triangle, and now you know what it does and why it's there. So that's all for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it's given you a bit of that extra information on what that key does. Thank you, of course, to the Fly-by-Wire team for putting the effort in to bring these features to the aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. There'll be plenty more guides and tutorials coming soon on the channel, so do please subscribe if you'd like to see more of those, as well as lots of live streams with different aircraft that we do on the channel. That's all then. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.